There were some CDs where it had like maybe one F word in the entire album. They still put it on, and then some it's just, and it's worse than that. I mean, an F word is whatever, but when you put it into context, man, it gets graphic. Hey, welcome back to the Amazing Marketing Show, where we discover marketing is a part of everything around us. And today we have more to discuss about marketing around us. I'm Dmitri Smirnov, here with Chris Gray. Chris, what's going on?
Dmitri, what up, man?
Another beautiful day. Excited to talk about these things. I'm excited for our segment. It's going to be a fun little game that we have planned for us. And this might be our best episode yet.
Oh, shit. Setting the bar kind of high here, man. Real quick, you talked about a nice day. We don't ever talk about weather or anything, but at the time of this recording, it's about to be springtime, right? We're at the beginning of spring. And bro, I have the biggest freaking spiders are like in my house. Like you could step on a spider and not feel anything and clean it up. And these ones, if you step on it, you just stepped on something with substance. Like they're big and there's a bunch of them. So we just had this guy come in and spray my house. And now all the spiders are like, they can't be on the edge anymore. So they're going to the middle. And so my wife is in here just crushing spiders.
That was pretty funny. I think there's maybe even a conversation here for the future of marketing of insects. And we could extrapolate this in so many ways, but why is it that cockroaches are the most feared by many, at least? They've got bad marketing, I think.
They don't fear me as much as I just find them disgusting. Like if your house is infested by spiders, it's like, oh, that could be any house. If your house is infested by cockroaches, you're freaking disgusting.
Yeah, see, they've got bad marketing because if it's infested by spiders, they're just disgusting too, and they can bite. And to me, they're much scarier. And I'd rather have cockroaches than a lot of different insects. So right now, we're dealing with ants. So I guess it's just part of the season.
Yes, sir.
Well, we have, for the first time ever, a new segment called First Thoughts. I think that's what we're calling it, right? So this is a game where we both prepared 5 words for each other. Going to be complete surprise to both of us, where I say one word and then you give me your immediate response. And after the end of the 5 words, we'll discuss in more detail why you may have had those responses and how it can be contextualized from a marketing perspective.
I'm down, man. Let's play.
All right. So let's see. Do you want to go first or shall I?
I will toss these at you first.
All right. Bring them.
All right. First word. Buddhist.
Okay. So you're going with religion, going with a big one right away. And my first reaction, my first thought is calmness, chill, zen, big fat Buddha sitting in a cross-legged position and smiling. So chill.
Christian.
I think first thought was America. Then I thought about the Middle Ages. Then I thought about the whole rest of the world being converted overseas on missions, China, Africa, South America.
Muslim.
Middle East, headwear, frequent prayer, fun sounding songs and prayers that they have. I was in Turkey once, so just thought about how they blast their prayers on speakers all day long. Flip-flops for some reason comes into mind.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We got 2 more. Here it goes. Mormon.
Okay. First thought is well put together people, successful, well mannered. Utah. See that? Yeah.
Hindu.
India. Mm, the dot on the forehead. I don't know a ton about Hinduism, and I feel like the a lot of people are Hindu. They don't really practice it, at least in the United States. They're just kind of like. I mean, a lot of people are like that, no matter the religion. So I don't really have a ton on that one.
That's all five, bro.
So, what was anything surprising at all, or is that kind of all cookie cutter answers? Like, I, I don't want to be boring in my response. I just gave you my honest first feedback.
No, I think that one of the things we can get into the marketing of these religions here in a second. But you, with Hinduism, I don't think you're the only person in the world that, of all these religions that we just named, I would say I'm the least knowledgeable in Hinduism. I think that it mirrors Buddhism, but as far as just knowledge in it, I don't know. I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita right now. I don't know what's going on. It seems to be it seems to be a lot like Buddhist. So your response, I think, was in line with what I was saying. Then also, you had a response that I probably set you up here. We might have offended all the Mormons listening to this show, if there's any. From what I understand, it's no longer being called Mormon as it is being called a Latter Day Saint, I believe, LDS. So if I offended any Mormons, get over it. I didn't mean to, and I'm also sorry.
Sorry, and also not sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear about that they rebranded, but I've heard both of the names used. I thought they could be interchangeable, but I mean everything that I've ever heard about them is very positive and personal experiences too. Like they're just the most well mannered people. Who knows what's happening behind closed doors, of course, but that's the same for anybody.
Now, you wanted to discuss the marketing of these religions. This could go anywhere. Where do you want to start, sir?
Yeah, well, it would be interesting to explore why. Well, maybe I'll ask you what how do you feel about when I say Buddhist?
It's a lot like what you said, calmness. And I think if it comes to marketing the religion, I don't feel as though Buddhists do very much marketing. If you go to maybe an airport in a certain city, or if you go to New Orleans where they're passing out Buddha beads, you don't find Buddhists trying to convert you. You don't really find a bunch of Buddhists knocking on your door. You don't. When's the last time you saw a Buddhist commercial? They don't really market yet. They're super popular.
Yeah, I mean that's true. And we could kind of look at this in a completely in a marketing perspective. It's like in any offer, a lot of times the marketing is what's important, but ultimately is what's the offer. So, and like
Yeah.
we're not religious experts, but maybe the different religions offer different things, and so you have to market it differently. You can't really be pushy if you're a Buddhist, whereas maybe as a Christian you can be a little bit pushier and say like here's what we offer and this is why we're doing this. Same thing probably with Muslim. Mormon, it's like you're in it and you can't leave it and deal with it, but at the same time it's okay. So the offer counts.
I think the offer here in Buddhism, and I'm not saying that there's no religion that's greater than the other. I'm not saying that. I'm saying from an offer perspective, I think Buddhism wins here because you can practice elements of Buddhism like meditation, mindfulness, and be a Mormon or be a Christian. Matter of fact, I had a conversation with my homeboy who's a Mormon, and he's doing a form of meditation. I forgot what it's called. It's that when you have one word, transcendental. I messed that word up, but he's doing that. Devout Mormon, but he's meditating for 40 minutes a day, 2 20-minute sessions. So in this offer, you can take elements of this religion, yet still have your religion. Whereas if you're a Mormon, you don't find Hindus practicing parts of Mormonism.
Yeah, and maybe some of them don't really want to be spread necessarily that wide, because maybe it's more difficult to follow. They don't expect people, or it might not appeal to a broad audience. You know, like there's not that many Mormons in the world. There's not that many Jewish in the world, but there are a lot of Christians, Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists. And I wonder, based on the offer, is it just more limiting and not necessarily has to do with the marketing?
That's a really good point. And there's another thought that I had. This might offend somebody, and if it does, well, then maybe you should think about it. I live in the South, surrounded by Christians. There's a church and a liquor store anywhere I go, right? Anywhere, good or bad neighborhood, they're all around. I will meet a Christian, like my business partner, who is devout, walks it like he talks it. He is a Christian, right? More often than not, the everyday Christian I run into around here in the South will slap a cross on their car or their RV. They might wear a cross chain or something like that. They don't go to church. They don't read the Bible, but it's all about Christians and Christianity, and nothing in their life reflects that. Whereas when I meet a Mormon or somebody in the Latter-day Saint community, more often than not, they read their Book of Mormon. They follow the values. They follow the system. There's more adherence. So when somebody says they're in the Church of Latter-day Saints, they seem to be more congruent with that in their lifestyle. Whereas the everyday Christian here in the South, they say they're a Christian, and I don't see anything about Christ in their life. So going back to from a marketing standpoint, just the product itself, looking at a religion as a product, in my opinion, that Mormon product looks a lot stronger than the Christian product as far as what happens when I meet the everyday Mormon and Christian.
Yeah, and well, it's talking about it from a results perspective of a religion, or from any offer for that matter. It's so, can you get your offer? Can you get the marketing going? Is the offer actually good? And then once somebody takes your offer, course, membership, in this case a religion, what is the ultimate result? And do you have social proof that it works? In terms of modern Christianity in the United States, it does seem like, in many cases, the idea, or no, I'm trying to figure out how to say this properly. It's like people are actually marketing themselves by borrowing the credibility of Christianity without committing to the accountability of Christianity. And that's become acceptable in Christianity in the US in today's day and age. Whereas, like you said, in Mormonism, you can't borrow that credibility without committing to it, because probably the membership will call you out on it. And that's what makes them unique. And that's why fewer people can rise to that occasion.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's actually a cool point. And like we're in the worlds of memberships and communities. You take a certification of something, now you're in this community, or masterminds, and it's all community. And there's just so many different parts and layers to having a community. Is you can say that you're a part of that community, which is valuable, as long as that community is perceived to be valuable by others, so you can leverage it to increase your status. Then there's the actual benefit of being in the community. In the case of religions, I guess the idea would be to live a more, for lack of a better word, a more godly life, or a proper life. So if you're actually following the tenets of it, you're going to arguably live a proper life. And then what's the ultimate result? Like, are you happy with the result that you get? I guess those are the three that I can think of. And yeah, the different religions that you've prompted me with, they have strengths in different ways. Like, yeah, a Christian is more about the saying, I'm part of the group.
I agree. I love what you said about you can't claim you can't claim, it's harder to claim Mormonism without it being evident in your life than it is with Christianity. And that might be um, part of the challenge from a just outsider looking in. But those are my thoughts on that.
Okay, well, that was pretty deep, and religion is such a like knowing what I know, which is not a lot, I will say. Although I've been to church and synagogue, and I visited mosques. I've seen Mormon temples. I haven't been inside. Um, I've read several books, and I can't like there, but I still feel like I only know less than 1% of it about any of this. But it's certainly interesting topics, and how, yeah, I bet they have marketing budget. Like churches have marketing budgets to get, and this goes into another thing. Is like, what are the incentives for a church? The incentive is not necessarily to convert you, just the same way as in a government organization, the incentive is not necessarily to do what's best for the constituents. It's to stay in power, grow power, or to be reelected. And same thing in a church is arguably the goal of the pastor or whoever's leading it or the board of directors of a church is to increase fundraising, continue their staying on the board or staying as the leader of a church, and then the secondary results are like having some influence on the community. So incentives matter.
Church is absolutely market. I had a meeting with a guy Wednesday. His whole business is marketing for churches. That's his whole business, right? And these mega churches don't become mega churches by chance. Joel Osteen doesn't do his thing that he's doing or has done by chance. And then you're right. You know, the preacher is there. You're going to have, I don't care what it is, whether what job it is, what business you own, or if you're a preacher or whatever, you're going to find good and bad people and all these different dynamics. Um, but with the preacher, there's going to, whether, you know, he's a good or bad one, you know, you're looking at LTV. You need people to be coming every Sunday and donating. I mean, you got bills to pay, right? And you're going to have some preachers who are so looking at an offer perspective. They're so compassionate and they care about what they do and they're so good. That's the offer right there, right? Their passionate sermons week over week will bring people back because that preacher believes in it, where you'll have another preacher who's just trying to bring people in to get money, right? So
Yeah,
it's an offer.
and I also want to just note that that's how any organization has to operate. I mean, you take any nonprofit for that matter, you're going to have really good nonprofits out there and they have to do marketing. That's the thing. It's like a lot of people say, well, I don't want to donate to that nonprofit because in their disclosures, they're showing that they're spending 50% on marketing and another 25% on operations. Like, well, I mean, if they don't market, they're not going to have any word out. They have no. If they can't pay people, it's going to be a house of cards that collapses. So these are necessary evils, so to speak. So even in the case of a church, it may be ultimately a good thing for the people and the community around it if the right people are running it with proper intentions. And just another thing, that what you just said really resonated with me, because this is how I think Christians are failing at marketing, because I hear the following thing all the time. I hear, I don't want to be a Christian. I don't want to go to church because I know so many Christians who are not a good example. That is bad marketing. That is bad social proof. And for that reason, you can make the case that Christianity is failing in this country at the moment.
It's rough too, because I used to be a devout Christian, legalistic. You know, it took it way too far. So I'm familiar with Christianity, read the Bible a couple times at least, and I've come across, you know, all of them. There's your Christian who walks it like they talk it. It's evident in their life. They don't say it, right? If you're a boss, you don't have to say it. There's Christians like that where they don't have to say it. You just get around this person. This person is a Christian. I can just tell. And then there's others who protest it, say it loud. Now, this is the person who's telling everybody they're the boss. Well, if you have to say it, then you're not. And this is and there's a lot more of these types of Christians. Than these types of Christians, those are the loudest and make the biggest noise and have the biggest opinion. They're the ones you're seeing on TV protesting at the border, preaching some low key version of hate, whether they're cognizant of it or not. And even with my wife, Dmitri, you and I have talked, and I know if people are listening, I'm on the spiritual journey myself. I was talking to my Mormon homeboy earlier, and I don't know which route to go, which way to go, and it's tough because I'm having to lead my family through this dark tunnel with this little candlelight, and I don't know what's going on. That's how I feel with my spiritual journey right now because my family's going to follow me, and my wife is so against Christianity. Dimitri, I'm open to anything. I'm reading, like I told you, I'm reading the Bhagavad Gita. I got the Book of Mormon up next. I got the Quran after that. I'm reading. I'm searching. But my wife is like, I don't care, just no Christianity. And why is that? Because she's just, over her lifetime, she's encountered the Christian that we just talked about that is damaging their community.
Yeah, and they really are. It's such bad marketing. I think you make a great point about the people who say it versus the people who show it. Like, you can feel it. You can feel it when someone's legitimate, and if you do have to shout it from the rooftops, more likely than not, it's not. You're not being authentic, or that person is not being authentic in that case. And it is something that you can feel. And the same thing with marketing of anything, any of our offers. If it's an e-commerce product, you have to believe in it. And you have to believe that it's a good thing. If it's an info product, same thing. But if you're screaming at it, and people have instinct, right? We all have instinct. We have life experience. We've been burned before, and certain patterns emerge. And unfortunately for Christianity, it seems like that pattern is becoming stronger lately.
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, now I've got some for you, and I'm going to try to make them controversial as well, or at least I hope your answers are controversial. But don't, of course, it's just first reaction. So again, we'll just, it's whatever you think of. Okay, so here we go. First word is ethics.
Ethics. When I think of ethics, I think of what you do when nobody is watching.
Censorship.
Censorship. The first thing that came to my mind was I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s. I'm thinking of a CD that has the parental guidance at the bottom. Then now my mind is going to Two Live Crew. This is early 90s, and they were so bad that they had to go to the court or something. And that's where my mind went with censorship.
Privacy.
Privacy. I'm thinking of Apple and that they're full of shit. They are talking about protecting everybody's privacy while they're just really all in your business, and then try to probably make their own data exchange with all the information that they're saying is private.
Sustainability.
Sustainability, the first thing that comes to my mind is a routine. And the reason I say that is because all this is stream of conscious happening right now. And so I love to work out. I love jiu-jitsu. I love all these things. They would not happen if I did not have a routine. That routine leads to sustainability. It's the same thing with my business. I have certain things I do on certain days because if I don't line those up like that, then there is no sustainability.
Diversity.
Diversity, I think, is important, and I also think it's not important. I'm a part of a group. Dmitri and I are a part of a group called Front Row Dads. And Front Row Dads, I'm probably one of like 3 black dudes. Again, this is all stream of conscious. And then they come to me and they're like, yo, how can we get more black people in Front Row Dads? I'm saying you're not. And you're not because your leader is white. And there's a bunch of white boys around me. And we are attracted to people who look like us. And so you're not going to get a bunch of black dudes because your leader is white. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to force black dudes in here, because if I had black dads, we wouldn't be sitting around saying, hey, how do we get more white dudes in here? It would just be a bunch of black dads because the leader's black.
Hmm. So where can we start with that one? I thought you had a lot of really fun answers because you called out Apple, like, and ethics was interesting. It's just what you do behind closed doors. It's effective, like when no one's watching. Yeah, when no one's watching. Um, censorship. What did you say about censorship?
I went to hip hop with. I saw
Oh
the
yeah,
my
yeah, right.
first, yeah, the parental guidance, and then Two Life Crew. I don't know, bro.
Yeah,
That
some of those
yeah.
albums were nuts, like with parental advisory. Like,
Yeah.
I, there were some CDs where it had like maybe one F word in the entire album. They still put it on, and then some it's just, and it's worse than that. I mean, an F word is whatever, but when you put it into context, man, it gets graphic.
I remember I was like way too young to be listening to it. I had to be in like, I don't know, fourth, fifth grade or so, or maybe third, somewhere around there. And my homeboy, um, Vietnamese cat, he was much older than me. My mom used to like hang out with his mom, and he played the tape. And I didn't even know what the heck they were talking about. I knew it was nasty, but I had never heard so many cuss words in my entire life, like back to back to back.
So this reminds me of I think it was a documentary or some kind of show that I was watching. I'm trying to Google it while we're okay. So uh okay, so you said Two Live Crew, right? So that's who started. They launched the parental advisory label pretty much on their album, but
Uh,
it was, I think I was watching something about Limp Bizkit and something like or some kind of band like that, where as soon as that label got planted on the CD, sales went up. So that was a marketing technique too.
mm,
Like they, and it's the funniest, it always happens where there's a good idea with good intentions that ends up being literally the opposite of what you want. And there's these good, well-intended parents that wanted to protect children from bad words, and they put these censorship stickers on CDs. And what happened was that actually drew kids even more to it, and sales just went up in that demographic.
and then you had a business like Walmart that they were like, we will not carry any CDs that have cussing. We're only going to, carry the clean version of these CDs. So guess where I never bought my CDs from back
Exactly.
in, yeah.
um that was like so another fun story. I think this is a fable, or maybe this happened in, no, this happened in real life. Okay, I'm not even gonna Google it, but at some point in, I think it was India. um I think it was India, but they had too many snakes, and they decided to uh get rid of the snakes by offering a bounty for every snake. Every snake you bring in, government pays you a bounty. What do you think happened?
People started breeding snakes.
Cha-ching, exactly, and started making money that way. And there were more snakes than ever.
The fact that I got that right can be concerning.
The fact that you got that right means you got good problem solving skills.
I got to watch my ethics.
You got to take the SAT, see what we can get on that. That was a good answer. Um. Okay, so sustainability. Yeah, I was kind of wanting to push that in the direction of like how modern, a lot of modern companies like to say they're sustainable for the environment, or uh, sustainable with carbon emissions or whatever, as a form of marketing. Because in my opinion, a lot of that is BS, especially with, I mean, like carbon credits and this and that, and it's sustainable. Like, well, tell me more about that. But like, yeah, so that's where I was going with it. But you went with a routine, which I thought was interesting too. Like, it's not sustainable unless you have a routine.
I think you're right with that push that companies are doing with, the environment and this and that. And I think that from a marketing perspective, that message really depends on your demographic. If your demographic's Democratic, they're out in California, they might care about that. If your demographic's like my father-in-law, he's a Trump supporter. He literally has a Trump pistol on the handle of the pistol. It's a 45. It's got Trump on it.
That's
He's
a collectible. That's
Yeah,
nice.
bro. He is straight up a Trumper, and Trumpers, Republicans don't give a shit about that. To them, there is no such thing as climate change and all that, from what I understand. So I think that always it just kind of depends on your target market with that message.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think that's quite true. I think that almost all people of the world do care about the environment. It's just a matter of how to go about fixing it. And so one side says, well, we have to drop everything and put every single dime that we have into making sustainable green stuff. And the other side is saying, well, no, is this really the best way to allocate resources? Like, we do care about the environment, but can it be done in a more reasonable way where we're not potentially putting more people into poverty in the meantime? And actually, that's a good point that you bring up, because there's also a marketing of the other side. No, and it's not just politics, but in this case, politics. So one side is saying, "Well, this is what the other side is saying," and that's marketing also.
That's and thank you for that, because my perspective on it is just what I told you. When I look at some people who care about the environment, and then they have these thoughts about this and that and how to be sustainable, and then again going back to my father-in-law and my wife's uncle and all of them, the Trumper guys. Nothing wrong with that at all. I'm just saying this is what I live with. This is my observation of what I see around me. They just don't give a shit. Electric cars, fuck all that stuff. That's bullshit. Let's use all the fuel we can. Who cares about the Al Gore is full of it. Like, it just seems like there's this it's not happening type vibe when I'm around them.
Yeah, and well, I think part of it is also how the sides have been pinned against each other, so you really can't even agree with anything the other side says without abandoning your side or your principles or whatever. And yeah, and in the case, like, for example, the electric car, and it's so interesting from a marketing perspective, in my opinion, because you can actually make the case that an electric car today puts out more emissions overall, including the creation of the battery, the mining of the minerals, the disposal of the battery, and the toxic chemicals about that, the whatever you have to do to create the electricity for the electric car to run on. You can make a case it's actually worse for the environment today. And I think the people are saying, well, we're just not about it, because we can't trust that. We don't want. I think what they're trying to say is that we don't want to put all our resources into something that's not working yet. It may be something for the future, but as of right now, where we don't know it as well, it doesn't seem like it's probably the future. But as for right now, we don't want to get pushed around into it, and put it that way. And we don't want to get stuck in a blackout.
If it was said that way, I'd be down. But I'm in the South, and it is not. The people around me don't say it as tactfully as that. I agree with what you're saying.
Well, I think so many people, and now that we're on the politics trail, like, this is a fun subject, but so many people are desperate for actual real debate in politics. Like, we don't have it. We just have one side saying, this is my thing, and the other side saying, this is my thing. It's two completely different sides. They contradict each other all the time, and there's just no debate. A presidential debate on TV is just a show. It's not an actual discussion of ideas. It's just who is the better debater, who can speak more eloquently and not necessarily in a eloquent way. Both of the leading candidates of the main parties right now, they don't speak like a college professor, but they speak in a way to appeal to their base, right? And it works.
Yes, I absolutely agree. For another show, I think we may have already talked about it on the show, but I just we did talk about Trump. I thought Trump's campaign was one of the best marketing campaigns I've ever seen in my entire life. That's something we already discussed. But then, to your point, we don't debate, we don't talk, we don't have real discussions, or at least publicly, like on TV or something. Um, and a case of that is we acquired a business. Me and my other business partner acquired a business where we have a bunch of right wing publications, and we're growing them. It's really an email business, um, publication marketing, email business. A lot of our stuff goes through email, and so all the people that we email to are on the right wing, and we don't. There's a certain percentage of our list that is an everyday, rational thinking person, Republican person. Matter of fact, Dmitri, I don't consider myself left or right. If I had to be, I probably gear towards the right more. If you look at my life and my views, but there's part of our list is a rational person who's Republican. A vast majority of our list are this irrational Republican, and that person doesn't care about debate so much, and they don't care about if I put out articles, if we put out articles that got them to think and question their beliefs, we'd be dead in the water. Business would go belly up overnight. What is my job? My job is to confirm your beliefs and do it in a manner that's engaging. I think that's news nowadays. Let's confirm what you believe. Let's not question any, God forbid we have you question your beliefs. Let's confirm it in a new way so that you can go to the dinner table, go to the barbecue, and take this little thing that you read and talk about it, because really it's just confirming what you already believe.
Yeah, and it's straight. That's coming from you, straight from somebody who's actively involved from a business perspective in politics, and
Yes.
that it shows that we are in some ways being driven to different sides of the ring by this belief confirmation and keep confirming your beliefs. It also reminds me of this one thing I read or heard about somewhere, just of marketing in general, is that there'll be a certain percentage of prospects who will buy from you no matter what. And going back to politics, that's like when Trump said he'll shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, they'll still vote for him. And that's true, because there are some people, and whatever your product or service is, they'll just buy from you no matter what, because they're committed to you and your brand and whatever else. Then there's a percentage of customers who will never buy from you no matter what, because they hate you. They hate your product. They hate what you stand for. They hate what you look like. They hate how you talk. They hate your face. One of those things. They will just never buy from you. And in politics and in everything in marketing, it's about those 30 or 40% in the middle who are actually open to one way or the other. And those are the undecided voters in politics. So every dollar spent from a marketing campaign perspective goes to those people. Every dollar spent, let's say, from in a business like yours, actually, it doesn't go to those people for the most part, I would assume, at least. And it just goes for the ones who are going to buy no matter what. You're reinforcing their beliefs.
Absolutely. The funny thing about that business, really quick, I have to say, is it's funny because you have me, you have my business partner, another black dude, and our other business partner, this Jewish guy. Our entire team is made up of people overseas. But the demographic, the person that's reading this is like, it's a Caucasian male over 55, barbecues, probably wears a fresh pair of white New Balances, like that type of demographic. And so they email, like, we send them content and they email us back. They don't know us. They don't know what we look like. And they're emailing us back content. They're emailing us back based on the content. And to them, they're emailing this publication that believes in what they believe in. So they're disconnected in the sense where they feel like they could say anything because I don't know this person, so they can say anything. But they also feel like they're talking to somebody who agrees with them. Point being is some of the shit that they say, it's just like the stuff that people say. And to me, it's funny, Dmitri, because if they saw the men and women behind the curtain who's actually sending this stuff out, I think their head would explode. There was this old Dave Chappelle skit from the very first season, Clayton Bigsby, the black white supremacist. That's how I feel sometimes. It's like, it's just funny, man.
Well, you know what? Maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing, because it would open up certain doors that are closed for some people, and they not all of them, and it'll take a long time, but maybe there'd be some actual benefit to that. But 2 points I wanted to make on those comments that you just said is that they're responding to your email list or your newsletter because they feel like they're talking to a friend. So what's really cool, and one thing I would love to know is, how do you get them to believe, aside from reinforcing their views already, maybe that's the biggest part of it, but how do you get them to believe that, or feel like, how do you get them to feel like they're receiving a letter from a friend that they're comfortable replying to and talking to in a very honest fashion?
It's something that we've talked about before. It's a segment that we have, I think we did last week, about writing the trends. And so when we send out these, it's a newsletter, and it's our version of content that's already out there. And so what I'll do is I'll go to BuzzSumo. I'll find out what's trending on Breitbart, Fox News, Post Millennial, these different sites. What's been trending the last week? Our content writers will look at what's trending and take those articles and then write headlines for that, and have our content writers write different versions of those articles. So what we're doing is we're already picking stuff that's worked. These are already articles that have gone viral. People are already interested. That's one. So somebody's already interested in this topic. Then two, all we have to do is write it in our own way and give it an email subject line that piques curiosity. There's a few things you want to do in those email subject lines, but curiosity is the main thing. So I need you to click and open it up. And then once you've clicked and opened it up, and it can't be clickbait, because if it says something ridiculous and you read the article and it's not connected to that email subject line, I've duped you and I'll lose you as a subscriber. But if it's interesting, and then what you read kind of is all intact, it's all aligned, they'll read through it. And we're not saying anything great. We're just kind of saying something that's already worked. So I think what helps is that these articles already confirm your beliefs. But the main thing behind it is it's this article that I picked already confirmed. I know it confirmed the beliefs of a bunch of people already. So I'm just riding the trend. I'm picking what's working.
It seems like there's a method to the madness. You're riding the trend. You're making them feel like they're your friend. And we talked about this before. It's not really about what you say, it's how you feel. And this is it coming back in real life, in a business, money. Like it actually works.
You have a second point, but can I say something before you bring your second point?
Absolutely, yeah.
For you guys who are doing newsletters, anybody writing stuff or giving out content, especially the news, death works. This sounds terrible, Dmitri, but we can write a headline, a really good, thoughtful headline that's really technical and a lot of thought into it, and it could do well and get a good click-through rate. I could say 20 shot, 14 dead. Boom, click-through rate is massive. Or I could say, there's the big one, especially for my demographic, country singer dead at 81. Anything about death and violence, it's the simplest headline, the easiest headline to write. And for the demographic that I target, it works like game, but it's a cheat code. If our click-through rates aren't looking great, if our content writer or our copywriters will find a death article, put it in there, boom, click-through rates up.
There's something, I think, even deeper than just curiosity with death. There's something like that happens that I don't know how to explain it, but you look at when a famous musician dies, especially when they're not old. If it's Michael Jackson or, a rock and roll star who dies in their 20s, they're immortalized forever. Their songs go #1 for the next month. And like, in a way, and some people even talk about some artists who live fast and hard. They're like kind of wanting it to happen so that they do get immortalized in that way. So it's like this finality, and it affects everyone. So I'm not surprised that one really works well.
Yeah. Sorry, I stopped you from your second question or second point.
Well, my second point has to do with white New Balance sneakers and how they've gotten attached to that certain demographic, and it looks like they're stuck there.
And it's funny because my father-in-law, he came in the other day with new shoes, and what were they? Or This is not, I say the other day, this is a while back, but it was like a fresh white pair. They weren't New Balances, but they had that New Balance look. They were white and whatever. And then I'll go to Walmart, where I live or whatever. And sure enough, there's going to be somebody with ankle high socks and blue jean shorts and a fresh pair of white New Balances.
It just like it smells like freshly cut lawn when you tell me that. Like, man, just like a clean lawn and New Balances are on, just barbecuing, hanging out in America.
You just hit the nail on the head. Oh, if you come to the South and you go to somebody's house and the guy barbecuing, because that's mostly the case here, the guy barbecuing has a pair of white New Balances, you're off to a good start.
So, I mean, maybe it makes sense for any shrewd businessman to have different styles of shoes. And if you're invited to a Southern Texas suburban barbecue, you better wear those white New Balances, and they better have some scuffs on
them. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I actually really enjoyed this segment, and we didn't even really dive into diversity, which maybe we should on a different episode, because that's probably going to be a fun whole one to dissect, and the marketing of that, and how, I guess I'll just give a preview of what I'm thinking is, I mean, we could talk about it if it's interesting. It's so similar because it ties in with religion, it ties in with sustainability, and there's good actors and bad actors, and people who actually want to do good, and then versus people or companies or organizations that just want to use it as a marketing technique. Like, look at us, we're doing that, this and that. We don't actually care what the result is ultimately, but we're using it as a slogan.
I think diversity is an excellent one to dive into. We can talk about it and have a longer episode if we go into the main topic, or maybe this isn't our entire episode. This segment became the episode. We have a few options here. Which way do you want to go? I'm down either way.
Well, let's investigate this a little bit. If we go down here, then you know what? We're already on it. Let's just go. Let's talk about it, because it ties into everything we've already discussed.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so well, what I mean, what do you think of that? Good actors, bad actors, just using it as slogans. What's going on with diversity?
I think they're good actors and bad actors, and I think that, like you said earlier, how people will talk about something being environment friendly, eco friendly, or they're trying to appeal to a certain demographic. I think that I've seen it firsthand with corporations, talk about diversity and this and that, and send out emails to the company about celebrating this month or celebrating that month and this, that, and whatever. And I think it's almost, it's how, like, a politician would shake hands and kiss babies. Corporations and businesses talk about how they're diverse, or they care about diversity, or they care about this, that, and the other. I see a fair amount of bad actors there. Here's another thing about diversity. Here's an unpopular opinion.
Bring it. Let's go.
Yeah,
unpopular opinion segment.
Unpopular
Hashtag.
opinion. Some of my people, they hate this. And it just is what it is. I got people really close to me. And mind you, Dmitri, I grew up, like, my dad's Jamaican, my parents are Jamaican. I grew up in a Rastafarian environment, but for part of our life, we were Black Muslim. Louis Farrakhan, Elijah Muhammad. Read all the books, ate all the bean pies, read all the final calls, all this type of stuff. And so I'm very familiar with history of Black people. That was literally my bedtime stories. So anyways, grew up in that. So I'll get around some people that look like me, and we'll talk about, how do I explain it? They will talk about the necessity of diversity and how, let's just use, I'm Black, right? So we use Black people, how Black people should get this or get that or get the other. And on one hand, they are right. I completely feel like um, some things happen historically that have impacted the community today. That is 1000% correct. I feel like that. I also feel that when things get harped on, or when a certain race starts to get special or demand special treatment, it takes away from what we ultimately want, which is equality. So if we want equality, if anybody wants equality, you cannot simultaneously request special treatment, even if some bullshit happened in the past. Unpopular opinion.
Well, I thought you walked that tightrope pretty smoothly. So
We'll see.
it's a very I mean, the way you put it is very logical and makes sense. And I think it's similar to the environment question, where almost everyone is kind of on the same page, at least in my opinion. Like, everyone believes in the general direction of how things should go, and then it's just a matter of how to accomplish that. And with so many people having good intentions, you're going to have your people who take advantage of it, the scam artists, and it's similar in all industries. So you can, and same with Christianity and religion, right? So you could have a scammer Christian who's hijacking the brand and using it to build funds, build influence in race relations, diversity. It seems like it's also kind of this hidden trap of who to trust, which movements to get behind, because what are the incentives behind it? Like, what are the ultimate goals of the people running it? Are they aligned with the people they claim to be wanting to help? And like you're saying, is what's the ultimate goal? You're saying the ultimate goal is equality. Well, is that really the ultimate goal for everyone? It may not be, because think about it this way: if equality is achieved, right? Let's say there's complete equality of everything. And by the way, equality is not um, e- um, equality of outcome, right? Because it's impossible unless you do that with violence. So if we're just talking about equality of opportunity, let's say that exists, okay? Just like magic button, it exists, and then the people who are fighting for it no longer are no longer necessary. So they need to keep marketing that there is a problem and that it needs more attention more than ever, and it needs more money than ever. Otherwise, they're out of a job. And that kind of sucks in terms of for society.
That is yes, I've never thought about it like that. When you say that, it made me think of like most doctors or hospitals or institutions, whatever it is. There is no money in the cure. If you come in and we cure you and you never come again, then LTV is dead, right? We need to put band-aids on the bullet wounds and have you keep coming back. And so if you cure people, then you'll lose some money. And kind of the same case here, if things just got to where they were equal and people felt like they had a fair chance, a fair opportunity, and that was promoted, then there would be certain businesses out of business.
Exactly. And it's like, we're in marketing, online marketing for that matter, and a lot of people say that marketers ruin everything. And to some degree I agree with that.
Yes.
Where something new comes out, a new social media platform or a new movement, or just like you're saying with politics, it's all marketers that are driving it. The news channels, all of this is driven by marketing and money, and it does kind of ruin everything because it takes the reality and truth out of it as a top priority. And I guess to tie this back into religion, and man, like, I guess we could make this a controversial episode, but I don't think we're getting that too far, too crazy right now. But to bring it into religion and why maybe it is necessary, and why I wish there were better marketers in Christianity in today's day and age, because if generating income for something that is not serving the public or your constituency at large is what you're doing, that's not a moral thing to be doing. And the only thing stopping someone from being immoral is what are their ethics and what are their beliefs, and a lot of times that is driven by religion. So if it was a Mormon person on average, let's say, I would trust them more to stop something that they know is wrong. And man, that is, like, again, good marketing on them, and maybe good in reality on them. Like, maybe they're actually, a lot of people make fun of them, and they're like, there's that play that made fun of them, and people make fun of them, but ultimately it seems like they can be trusted, at least in my opinion.
And to go to the reputation, back to marketing, right? The reputation of your offer and just reputation of your brand. Why is it okay to make fun of the Church of Latter-day Saints or Mormons or whatever? Like, it was okay to have a Broadway show that, made fun of them. I saw a South Park episode a long time ago. I think it's the same guys who did the Broadway show. It was a funny episode, I ain't gonna lie. But like, it was okay. Whereas if there was a Broadway show that made fun of Muslims, the Muslims ain't having it. Like, they're not having that. If it was a Broadway show or something that really made fun of Christians or Jesus Christ, or there would be this uproar. But in a lot of cases, it's okay to bash on the Mormon community publicly. It's okay to put out a Broadway show. And so now who's at fault? Is it the public for not giving that religion the respect that it would give other ones? Or is it the fault of the Mormons for not raising hell about the treatment that they get publicly?
Probably both. I wonder what pushback the Mormons did have in that instance, but based on their values, like, there's only so much that they can do, or like they can only maybe pursue something legally, where, or maybe they're just like, this will blow over and we're not gonna pay too much attention to it, because those are the values of the group, and they're all about the values of the group. So, man, and like, going back to the companies too, right? The companies that I mean, you have your fakers and your makers, the ones who are doing it for real. They're doing it. Man, we only have a few minutes left, but in terms of diversity, diversity is technically a broad term, because you could have people who look exactly alike and are from the exact same background, speak the same language, and be very diverse within them. It's just different variables that are diverse other than their background and their skin color. So diversity, that's another. It's like a lot of things have taken that word and maybe, I don't know what the right word is. What I'm trying to say is, like, they've just taken part of its meaning and then ran with it, and the credibility of the word itself has now just morphed into only talking about one thing. So anytime it's brought up, it's just about the one thing.
There's two things, and we might go a little long. Can we go a little longer?
Yeah, we can go long.
We
could go all day, I think.
We really could with these subjects. There's two things. I think that diversity has caused the opposite of its intent, right? So diversity itself has, that topic in some cases has caused a wedge, because when you talk about diversity, you very rarely are talking about including a Caucasian male. It's typically some other race or a woman. She could be white as well, but diversity typically excludes the white man. And so in in my email business, for example, where it's a white male over 55 Republican. Another email subject line that works very well is whites not allowed. Like subject lines that, again, are confirming their beliefs of them being excluded when it comes to something of diversity, specifically the white male. So diversity, that topic itself, has been divisive. That's one. Two, my question to you is, does diversity matter? And let me give you a caveat. My question is, does diversity matter? For me, I think that, I'm not going to answer the full question. I want to hear your answer. But from a marketing standpoint, I love the lack of diversity because then it helps me with my targeting. I want that shit to be like as non-diverse as possible. Like I want to niche down. This is a white woman who's affluent and does yoga. Like I don't want diversity, but overall, period, like, do you think diversity matters?
Okay. It's an interesting broad question, so I'm gonna see if I can answer this properly because I do have an opinion on this. In business, most of the time in today's age, what matters is making more profit, and that can be done different ways. There's short-term profit, long-term profit. So there's a time variable, there's a demographic variable, who are you going to be selling to? And to me, in business, diversity, the way it's being used primarily as a marketing tool. And that's why it's so interesting, especially for this podcast, because I believe it is marketing. And even if it's somebody pushing for a certain movement or people from certain groups that want to elevate their group higher in some aspect, whether it's to have a higher average income or a longer lifespan, whatever they're trying to do to help their group, this is a good technique of advancing that project. To use diversity, like, okay, so we're going to encourage all companies to be more diverse because as of right now, the percentages of people that are employed there are not aligned with the percentage of the population of the country. So therefore, it has to match up this way and that way. That will ensure a higher income for a certain group. Okay, it's kind of like a long-winded answer, but so as a business, you can be pressured into something that's not necessarily good from a profit perspective in terms of short-term profit, but it's good for you long-term because you won't get boycotted, canceled, something else, and you could have an altruistic perspective where you believe that basically that you could train anybody up and over time it's actually going to be a net positive to you. So there's that time variable. Again, it depends on, are you a business that has money and can afford to do this, or you don't, and so you have to make that decision. Then from a personal perspective, does diversity matter? And like, I want to return to the question of what diversity are we talking about? Are we just talking about diversity of skin color and what's going on in the pubic region? Because a lot of times systems form, and this is my opinion of it, but I feel like systems form in a certain way, not necessarily for bad reasons, and a lot of times for good reasons. Thinking about traditional masculine and feminine roles for, let's say, 99.9999% of human history, there were certain roles that males and females would do. I don't believe that was done in a malicious way. I believe that happened as a survival mechanism, because that's the way, that was the optimal way for people to survive for hundreds of thousands of years. If they had done it differently, or I'm sure groups did do it differently, they didn't survive. And so is diversity important in that case? No, it's actually counterproductive and could kill you if you insist on it. Um, but and then and then there's the final case, I guess, like where there's people who are underrepresented or underprivileged is a common word or something, and they have no way of mobility to move up. And we don't want to have a caste system like they do in India. Like that, for that right there is a real problem, because there really is no mobility at all. Like legally, you can't move up. But I guess it's I'm trying, like, I still want to talk about it from a marketing perspective. Um, I think it's important from a marketing of a country perspective is for all its citizens, and not just diversity of skin, but diversity of opinion and thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past, like thoughts. So diversity of thought, diversity of opinion, diversity of politics, diversity of age. As a country, you want to market yourself as a land of opportunity for everyone. And I believe in that. So in that case, diversity does matter.
Those are good responses. We're running short on time. Let me let me add to what you just said. You had so many points I could branch off. The next, we're on a 3-hour episode here.
Maybe that's what the people want. You guys, if somebody comments, I need a 3-hour episode, maybe we'll do it one day.
We can do it. I believe, like I was saying earlier, when I was talking about equality and special treatment and this, that, and the other, I do believe this. I'll speak just for the African American community. I think that Jim Crow laws back in the day prevented black people from accumulating wealth. Well, you could build a business, but your scalability was limited. And who would you rather sell to or make stuff for, a poor community or an affluent community? And if you did not have the opportunity to sell to the affluent community, it's going to impact your wealth and your opportunity to create generational wealth. So I believe those things did impact the African American community. Now, to bring it back to whether diversity, man, this is all going to kind of, I have a point with that. Does diversity matter? And I'm just going to talk about just from businesses, everyday business life or whatever. I am cheating because I'm going to say yes and no. And I forgot who said it, but on the opposite end of one truth is another truth. And so I can give an example better than I can talk about this. And so let's say there's a black owned bakery, I think we might have talked about this before. There's a black owned bakery. Growing up, I didn't see very many black owned shit. Like black owned, I was happy to have a black coach. There was no real diversity, which there was nobody who looked like me doing anything that was big at that. So what does that say? Like, so when I finally found, to me, a black coach or a black business owner, I was like, yo, somebody who looks like me is doing this, I can do it too. So in that case, diversity and representation matters. And so if there's a black owned bakery, the fact that it's black owned, does that matter? Yeah, a little kid who doesn't see many people who look like him, that is going to matter. And it doesn't matter, because now you have to actually, if it's a black owned bakery, okay, cool. Is the cake good? That's somebody else's response. And that's fine as well. So it's complex, like a lot of different things. And I think, and kind of to your point, it just kind of depends on where we're putting it. And I love what you said about diversity actually hurting depending on the context. So it's a very complex, nuanced discussion.
Yeah. And similar to the electric car, it's like, what are all the variables? Can we have an actual discussion and a productive path forward that hits most of the goals that we're wanting to achieve, whether it's with education, environment, whatever, any question. And man, our marketers are just ruining it. We're ruining everything. We're just making money instead of solving problems. Although, on the other hand, I mean, you are solving a problem in a certain aspect. You're providing entertainment and you're selling certain products. And somebody said that the amount of wealth that you accumulate over time is a reflection of how much value you've provided to the world. That's interesting.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Best episode ever?
I hope so. I think you were right. This was if it's not the best one, it's definitely the most thought-provoking one we've had, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I had a lot of fun, and we still have our topic now. We were going to talk about the Oscars, and there's a lot of marketing to movies and the Oscars themselves. I mean, there's like they have their fashion side and the award side. Actors, people love their actors. Anyway, we could save that for another day. Appreciate everybody listening. Any final words, Chris?
Nah, man. I appreciate you guys, and peace.